The hardest truth is this: you may be suffering not because life has forgotten you, but because you keep trying to force what is not ready. You keep sending the message. You keep knocking on the closed door. You keep explaining yourself to people who already decided not to understand you. And every time nothing changes, you call it bad timing. But what if the delay is not rejection? What if the silence is not emptiness? What if everything feels stuck because life is waiting for you to stop interfering? Most people destroy what is coming by demanding that it arrive too soon. They pull the seed from the soil to check if it is growing. They chase people who were meant to reveal their absence. They announce plans that needed protection. They make permanent decisions because they cannot survive one quiet season. Listen carefully. Your life may not be falling apart. It may be rearranging itself around the person you are becoming, but you will never see the pattern while you are panicking, chasing, and speaking from fear. Sometimes the final piece falls into place only after you become silent enough to stop moving the others. You keep calling it bad timing because the truth is harder to accept. You were not ready for the opportunity you demanded, not ready for the relationship you tried to force, not ready for the responsibility hidden inside the success you prayed for. And now, because life did not obey your schedule, you believe something has gone wrong. But look closely. What if nothing has gone wrong? What if the delay is not punishment, but protection? What if the silence surrounding you is not emptiness, but preparation? You have been knocking on a door that refuses to open, and every unanswered knock has made you question your worth. You watched others walk through their doors while yours remained closed. You smiled for them. You congratulated them. Then you went home and asked yourself the question you were too ashamed to say aloud. Why not me? Here is the uncomfortable answer. Perhaps life is not withholding what belongs to you. Perhaps it is waiting for you to become someone who can carry it without destroying it. There are moments when the strongest thing you can do is stop explaining, stop chasing, stop proving, and become silent enough to hear what the delay is trying to teach you. Because when you trust the timing and stay silent, things do not simply fall into place around you. Something deeper happens. You fall into place within yourself. Most people do not fear waiting. They fear what waiting reveals. When movement stops, distraction disappears. When the messages slow down, when the plans collapse, when nobody is applauding, you are left alone with the person underneath all the noise. That is why you keep reaching for your phone. That is why you send another message after receiving no reply. That is why you explain your intentions to people who have already decided to misunderstand. That is why you announce your next move before you have taken the first step. Noise gives you the feeling of control. Silence exposes how little control you truly have. And this is where the training begins. Not when life gives you what you want, when it refuses. Anyone can appear peaceful when the road is clear. Anyone can speak about faith when the answer arrives quickly. Anyone can claim patience when the outcome is already visible. But who are you when there is no sign? Who are you when you have done the work and nothing has changed? Who are you when people less disciplined than you seem to move ahead? Who are you when your effort remains unseen? That is the real question. Because your character is not revealed by how you receive success. It is revealed by how you inhabit uncertainty. You say you trust life, but the moment life moves more slowly than your desire, you interfere. You dig up the seed to check whether it is growing. You pull at the branch because the fruit has not appeared. You disturb the water and then complain that you cannot see your reflection. Be honest. You do not always want guidance. Sometimes you want confirmation that your impatience is correct. You want a sign that tells you to keep chasing the person who keeps withdrawing. You want a sign that says the closed door will open if you strike it hard enough. You want a sign that excuses you from changing yourself. But silence does not flatter you. Silence shows you where your energy is leaking. It shows you the conversations you replay for hours, the imaginary arguments you keep winning in your mind, the people whose approval still controls your mood, the outcomes you pretend to surrender while secretly trying to manipulate every detail. This is not peace. This is control wearing spiritual clothing. Trust is different. Trust does not mean sitting without action. It means acting fully, then releasing the demand that life reward you immediately. You prepare, you practice, you speak when speech is necessary, you move when the path is clear. Then you stop pulling on the future as though it owes you an explanation. There was once a young stone carver who lived beneath a mountain monastery. He was talented, disciplined, and impatient. Every morning he shaped rough stone into statues. His hands were strong, his vision precise, but he carried one private wound. No matter how much he worked, the master of the monastery never invited him to carve the figure that would stand at the temple entrance. That honor always went to older artisans. Year after year, the young man watched them climb the mountain with their tools. He remained below, carving ordinary bowls, steps, and garden stones. One winter, his frustration hardened into anger. He approached the old master and said, "You have watched me work for 7 years. My hands are steadier than theirs. My eyes are sharper. Why do you keep me below?" The master looked at him and answered, "Because your hands are ready, but your silence is not." The young man felt insulted. What does silence have to do with stone? The master pointed toward a large block near the workshop. "Carve that." The young man examined it. The stone was cracked, uneven, and ugly. What should it become? The master said, "Do not decide yet." Then he walked away. For 3 months, the young man studied the stone. At first, he saw only defects. He wanted to strike quickly, to prove his skill. But the master had forbidden him to begin, so he waited. Each morning he sat before the stone in silence. Snow gathered around it. Sunlight moved across its surface. Rain entered the narrow cracks. Slowly, the young man stopped asking what he wanted the stone to become. He began asking what the stone could endure. He noticed that one crack formed the natural curve of a shoulder. Another revealed where the stone would split if struck too hard. The weakness he first wanted to remove became the guide for the entire design. When spring arrived, the master returned. "What do you see?" he asked. The young man answered, "A man bowing." The master nodded. "Now carve." The statue became the most beautiful work the village had ever seen. Not because the young man's hands had improved, but because he had finally stopped forcing his idea onto the stone. The master placed it at the temple entrance. Visitors believed the figure bowed to welcome them, but the young carver knew the deeper meaning. The figure was bowing to time. You are often like that young artisan. You have skill, hunger, intelligence, and desire, but you are still trying to force life into the shape you imagined before you understood the material. You are cutting too early, speaking too early, leaving too early, returning too early. You see a crack and call it failure. You see resistance and call it rejection. You see delay and assume you have been forgotten. But some cracks are instructions. Some resistance is redirection. Some delays keep you from making permanent decisions with temporary emotions. The life you want may require a version of you that cannot be built through speed. Strength needs pressure. Discernment needs disappointment. Humility needs uncertainty. Patience needs something worth waiting for. You ask life to give you peace, then become angry when it removes the things that disturbed your peace. You ask for clarity, then resist when confusion forces you to look more deeply. You ask for stronger boundaries, then feel guilty when certain people can no longer reach you as easily. You ask for transformation, but you want it without loss. That cannot happen. The old structure must become unstable before a new one can stand. This is why some seasons feel as though everything is falling apart. The job no longer fits. The relationship becomes quiet. The friendships feel distant. Your old habits stop comforting you, but your new discipline has not yet become natural. You are between identities, and the space between identities is rarely beautiful. It is confusing. You are too awake to return to who you were, but not yet grounded in who you are becoming. Do not panic here. This is the place where many people sabotage their own growth. They mistake unfamiliarity for danger. They run back to old relationships because loneliness feels worse than disrespect. They return to old habits because discipline feels empty before it becomes freedom. They abandon their purpose because progress is invisible. They speak too soon because silence makes them feel forgotten. But being unseen is not the same as being unworthy. A root grows in darkness. It does not receive applause. It does not know what the tree will look like. It does not demand proof from the soil. It simply moves downward before the tree can rise. Your hidden season may be doing the same thing. You want visible progress, but life may be building internal stability. You want recognition, but life may be removing your dependence on recognition. You want companionship. Life may be teaching you not to abandon yourself just because someone else did. You want the next chapter, but life may still be teaching you how to read the one you are in. Stay, not forever. Stay long enough to understand. Silence is not weakness. It is concentrated observation. When you stop reacting immediately, you begin to see what emotion had hidden. You see who only values you when you are useful. You see which opportunities require you to betray your principles. You see how often you confuse chemistry with compatibility, attention with respect, urgency with importance. And you see yourself. That is the part most people avoid. It is easy to blame the person who left. Harder to examine why you ignored every sign before they did. It is easy to blame the opportunity that disappeared. Harder to admit you were more attracted to the title than the responsibility. It is easy to say the timing was wrong. Harder to admit that you kept arriving with the same unhealed patterns and expecting a different result. Pause. This is not a command to blame yourself for everything. There are losses you did not create, betrayals you did not deserve, doors that closed despite your honest effort. But even when the wound is not your fault, healing it becomes your responsibility. And healing often requires silence, not the silence of suppression, the silence of digestion. Pain is like food for the soul. If you swallow it without processing it, it does not disappear. It remains inside you, heavy and unfinished. It remains inside you. Then one day, you speak from it, choose from it, love from it, punish people with it. You call it instinct, but sometimes it is only an old wound making a new decision. This is why you must become still. You must learn the difference between intuition and fear. Fear is loud, repetitive, urgent. It tells you that something must be done immediately or everything will be lost. Intuition is quieter. It does not argue. It does not beg. It simply remains. Fear says, send another message. Intuition says, you already have your answer. Fear says, explain yourself again. Intuition says, those committed to misunderstanding you are not asking for clarity. Fear says, take the opportunity before someone else does. Intuition asks, what will this opportunity cost your integrity? Fear wants relief. Intuition wants alignment. And alignment does not always feel comfortable. Sometimes the right decision feels lonely before it feels peaceful. Sometimes staying silent feels cruel because you have spent years believing that access to you is something everyone deserves. Sometimes walking away feels like failure because you were taught to measure commitment by how much pain you tolerate. Sometimes waiting feels irresponsible because the world praises constant motion, even when the motion leads nowhere. But a person running in the wrong direction is not ahead of the person standing still and reading the map. Do not worship movement. A restless mind can turn progress into escape. You can fill every hour, answer every message, begin 5 projects, chase 3 goals, and still be avoiding the one truth that would change your life. Busyness can be fear with a calendar. Silence takes away the disguise. Then you must confront what you know. You know when a relationship survives only because you keep lowering your standards. You know when an environment is shrinking you. You know when you are using preparation as an excuse not to begin. You know when you are calling laziness, trusting the timing. Yes, that deception must also be exposed. Trusting the timing does not mean sleeping through your responsibility. A farmer cannot stare at an empty field and call it faith. He must prepare the soil, plant the seed, protect it from harm, and return each day to do the work the season requires. He cannot command the rain, but he must still carry water. There are things outside your control, and there are things you are pretending are outside your control, because action would make you accountable. You cannot control when the opportunity arrives. You can control whether your skills are ready. You cannot control whether another person recognizes your value. You can control whether you continue negotiating against yourself for their approval. You cannot control the exact day your life changes. You can control what kind of person that day will meet. This is where trust becomes discipline. You stop asking, when will it happen? You begin asking, who am I becoming while it has not happened? That question changes everything, because the waiting room is not separate from your life. It is your life. These days are not empty pages before the real story begins. They are the pages forming the person who will enter the next chapter. Do not waste them staring at the door. Train your body, sharpen your craft, clean your space, keep your promises, read what strengthens your judgment, rest without guilt, learn to sit alone without turning loneliness into desperation. Practice saying no without writing an essay afterward. Let your actions become so rooted that you no longer need to announce them. This is the power of staying silent. Silence protects energy before results exist. Every time you announce a fragile plan, you invite opinions into something that has not yet grown strong enough to survive them. Some people will doubt you, others will praise you too early. Both can distract you. Doubt may make you abandon the work. Premature praise may make you feel rewarded before you have earned the result. So keep certain things sacred, not secret from fear, protected through wisdom. A flame exposed to strong wind dies before it can warm the room. Shield it, feed it, let it become steady. Then you will not need to tell anyone that you carry fire. They will feel the heat. There is a strange need inside the unsteady mind to be witnessed while becoming. You want people to know you are healing. You want them to know you have changed. You want the person who hurt you to see that you are doing better. But the moment your growth becomes a performance for them, they still control it. Real change does not keep turning around to see who is watching. It moves quietly. The mountain does not explain its height to the valley. The river does not defend its direction to the stone. And you do not need to provide a speech every time you choose peace over an old pattern. Let them misunderstand. This may be one of the hardest lessons you ever learn. You cannot control the version of you that exists inside another person's mind. Some people will remember you only by the moment you were weakest. Some will tell your story in a way that protects them from seeing what they did. Some will call your boundary arrogance because they benefited from your lack of one. Some will call your silence guilt because they expected you to keep defending yourself. Let them. Truth does not become false because someone refuses to face it. Your task is not to chase every false narrative with a correction. Your task is to live so clearly that you no longer need the correction. Time reveals what arguments cannot. A lie requires maintenance. Character reveals itself through repetition. Eventually, people become the evidence of who they are. So stop interrupting the process. When you constantly react, you prevent others from revealing themselves fully. You rush to repair the tension. You fill the silence. You offer another chance before the lesson has settled. You explain away the disrespect. Then you wonder why you remain confused. You are confused because you keep editing the evidence. Step back. Watch. A person's pattern becomes obvious when you stop helping them hide it. Your own pattern becomes obvious too. Notice what happens when you are disappointed. Do you become cruel? Do you disappear? Do you chase? Do you punish through silence while pretending to protect your peace? There is a difference between sacred silence and manipulative silence. Sacred silence creates clarity. Manipulative silence attempts to create anxiety in someone else. Sacred silence is not a weapon. It is a space where reaction loses its authority. You do not stay silent to make them miss you. You stay silent because your dignity no longer needs to beg for what should be freely given. You do not withdraw so they will chase you. You withdraw because chasing has taught you that forced closeness is another form of loneliness. You do not disappear to prove your value. You become still enough to remember that value does not increase when recognized or decrease when ignored. This is maturity. It is not coldness. It is warmth with boundaries. It is compassion without self-betrayal. It is patience without passivity. It is knowing that forgiveness may free your heart without reopening the door. Some endings are not failures. They are completed lessons. You keep asking why certain people could not come with you, but perhaps they belonged to the version of you who needed them. Perhaps their role was not to remain. Perhaps they revealed where you were still willing to abandon yourself for connection. Perhaps they showed you the price of ignoring your own intuition. Thank the lesson. Do not rebuild the cage. There comes a time when going back is no longer kindness. It is self-erasure. And this is where trusting the timing becomes painful. You may know that a chapter is over long before the next one begins. There may be no replacement, no new relationship, no better job, no immediate reward for choosing yourself, only space. Many people cannot tolerate that space. They fill it with the nearest available distraction and call it destiny. But empty space is not always asking to be filled. Sometimes it is asking to be cleaned. Let the dust settle. Let your nervous system learn that peace is not boredom. Let your heart learn that consistency may feel less intoxicating than chaos. Let your mind stop confusing emotional intensity with meaning. You have spent too long calling storms love because calm water felt unfamiliar. Now calm may feel empty. Stay anyway. Your system is adjusting. What is healthy may feel strange before it feels safe. What is safe may feel dull before it feels deep. What is deep may grow slowly because it is building roots rather than creating spectacle. Give it time. Not everything valuable enters your life with thunder. Some things arrive as a quiet absence of anxiety. A conversation where you do not have to calculate every word. A relationship where affection does not disappear to keep you obedient. A purpose that does not need constant excitement because it is anchored in meaning. A morning where you wake and realize the old pain is no longer the first thing you remember. These changes are easy to miss because they do not shout. But a peaceful life is often built from victories no one applauds. The message you did not send, the argument you chose not to continue, the invitation you declined, the habit you practiced when no one was watching, the night you rested instead of returning to what broke you, the day you stopped needing an apology to move forward. This is how everything begins to fall into place. Not all at once, piece by piece. First, your thoughts stop fighting reality. Then your actions stop contradicting your values. Then your relationships begin changing because access to you now requires honesty. Then opportunities shift because you are no longer saying yes from fear. The external order follows the internal order. But you must stop rearranging the outside while remaining chaotic within. A new city will not save an undisciplined mind. A new partner will not heal the abandonment you keep refusing to face. A new income will not create enoughness in someone addicted to comparison. A new title will not silence the voice that believes worth must be earned through exhaustion. You carry yourself everywhere. So before you ask life to change the scenery, change the one who is looking at it. This is not a demand for perfection. It is a demand for honesty. You do not need to be completely healed before life opens a new door. But you must become honest enough to stop calling your wounds a personality. I am just an overthinker. No, you may be someone who learned to scan constantly for danger. I care too much. Perhaps you keep trying to earn love by overgiving. I have bad luck. Maybe. Or maybe you keep choosing what is familiar over what is healthy. I am waiting for the right time. Or you are terrified that beginning will expose the distance between your dream and your current ability. Look carefully at your language. Excuses often arrive dressed as identity. Remove the costume. You are not condemned to repeat what you can become conscious of. But awareness alone is not transformation. You must practice a different response. When the urge to chase comes, remain still. When the urge to explain comes, ask whether the listener has earned the explanation. When the urge to quit comes, separate exhaustion from misalignment. When the urge to force the future comes, return to the work in front of you. This moment, this breath, this task. The mind wants to live 10 years ahead because the present requires discipline. The future is easier to fantasize about than the present is to build.